Now we need to talk about army composition and divisions, but first let's gather up all the army, which we can do from here, from this little tab, or we can just, here we have unassigned divisions. This means you have some divisions that are not assigned to any command group. Now in order to select all of them, you can shift and left click and all 30 divisions are selected like that. If you just click one, it will cycle through all of these divisions. So just shift left click, and then to assign them all to a new army, you can just click here and they are all assigned to a new army. This army has 30 divisions. It has no commander. You can click to assign a commander, and there's a list of commanders right here. Now I'm just going to pick someone at random. We're going to discuss all of the attributes of each commander later on. So let's pick Felix Steiner for the memes, and we can see all of a sudden that something here has turned into red. Why? Felix Steiner is currently leading 30 divisions and is only capable of efficiently leading 24 divisions, so it's getting a current penalty of 25% to all of the stats. And when I'm saying stats, I'm talking about these stats, which are bonuses that Steiner applies as a general to any combat that his divisions are currently enrolled in, and he's getting a 25% reduction to all of these positive bonuses. The reason is why is because he's currently 6 divisions overstaffed. So the way to fix this very simply is you can select individually 6 divisions by holding down shift and selecting 6 divisions, or if you've been playing this game for a long time, you will know that Germany starts the game with exactly 24 infantry divisions. So all you have to do is double click on an infantry division and it will automatically select all of the divisions of the same template. And now if you want to have them go to a new army, you just click here or right click here. I also tend to do that. And now all of the 24 infantry divisions are in a different army, and Steiner has only 6 divisions left, and now they say he has 6 divisions and he's capable of efficiently leading 24 divisions, and that negative modifier is now gone. What we see here is we see 3 Panzer divisions. I'm going to move them to a new army, and now all we have left here is 3 other divisions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that's a little bit less kosher, let's say. I'm going to also change this division into a Panzer division, and it tells me, wait, you don't have the equipment. We need 200 more light tanks, 100 more motorized, 40 support equipment, and 12 towed artillery. And here it tells us how much is available, and it's all in red because we have much less available than what's required. And it also tells us that we'll gain 50 manpower and 590 infantry equipment, which is because this unit template was using more guns and more manpower than this unit template is using, but this unit template is obviously using more light tanks, more motorized, more support equipment, and more artillery. So we're just going to say, yeah, okay, fine, I don't care about that, and just turn it into a tank brigade, and it's going to have it's going to trickle in. Also, we have this motorized unit here, and I'm going to use this cavalry unit, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to turn it into a motorized infantry. It also tells me, wait, you don't have enough infantry equipment, blah blah. Yeah, okay, fine. We're going to produce all of this equipment eventually, so we don't care. So now I have 2 motorized and 4 tanks. I'm going to reassign them all, and now Steiner is gone. This is why I selected Steiner originally, because I knew I was going to do all of this maneuvering. So now I have a full army of infantry divisions, and since it's Germany, it's fully trained. There are 5 levels of experience. This is level 3, it's regular, and it means it gets a plus 25% modifier in combat. The next level, which is level 4, is season, and it gives you a plus 50% modifier in combat. And the next level after that is level 5, which is veteran, and that one gives you a plus 75% level in combat. Now here you already see this one is only trained and not regular, and this is level 2. It just means you get a 0% modifier in combat. The progress to the next level is measured by this yellow indicator here. This is at 24%. This is at 49% progression to the next level. Now, originally, undertrained is level 1, which is basically a rookie division, or I think it's called rookie, and the modifier in combat is minus 25%. So it's easy to remember. Level 1, real shit, you get a penalty in combat. Level 2, you don't get a penalty in combat. Level 3, you get a 25% bonus. Level 4, you get a 50% bonus. Level 5, you get a 70% modifier in combat. Again, the story of the game is to stack as many positive multipliers as possible on top of each other. So, more veteran divisions, you have a better result. Okay, now we have a 24 infantry division, and let's talk about generals. We have what is called for the Germans, we have infantry officer. What the infantry officer does is it will receive more experience if they are leading infantry divisions. These are the original infantry officers for Germany. I usually like to promote Erwin von Witzabel to Field Marshal. We're going to discuss what that is, and use these 3 guys as infantry. And generally, I think I tend to use these other guys that don't have any actual specialization, like Kurt Student and Georg von Küchler and Steiner, for instance, Ernst Eberhard, Wilhelm List as other infantry generals. So I think I'm going to take right now. I'm going to use Schultz. And for the this is going to be the tank army. For the tank army, you want to use. So we have Guderian, who's already a very good armor officer, and he already has the Panzer Leader trait. We're going to discuss what these mean, but I'm going to use a different armor officer for my tanks, and that is Rommel. Basically, here's how you want to look at it. Your infantry is designed for holding. So let me go back to the infantry again. Your infantry is designed for holding. Your infantry is basically defense centric. What you want to do is you want to pick the highest defense general that's available, and you also want to take into consideration their affinity for infantry. In this case, the highest infantry general would have been Wilhelm Ritter von Lüb. But Wilhelm Ritter von Lüb is an old guard, and while the old guard gives you a little bit more entrenchment, we discussed entrenchment a little earlier, it's basically a defensive multiplier, which seems to be good. He also is gaining 25% less experience, which means that unless he is a smacking amazing infantry officer right from the start, he will not exactly increase itself. So this is sort of like the RPG side of HOI4. He will be much more unlikely to level up than some of the other officers here, which is why Erwin von Witzfelben would have been a very good choice because he has 3 defense, 4 attack, which translates, you can see it here, into plus 7.5 defense, plus 10% attack, plus 10% planning speed, and plus 4% max planning, and minus 10% to the supply consumption. Again, we're going to discuss what supply consumption means later on, but since this guy is our best infantry guy, this is why I tend to promote him, because he will, by him being a field marshal of an infantry army, he will gain infantry characteristics much faster, and he will also gain experience much faster because he will be leading infantry, so he will be able to level up much faster from the position of a field marshal as well. So the next guy down the line would be Friedrich Schultz, because he has 3 attack, 3 defense, and the other infantry guy would have been here Kurt Studen. Now there's also a guy who doesn't have a specialization up here, which is Albert Kesselring. Now traditionally, I think he was in charge of the Luftwaffe. He has 4 defense. He is a brilliant strategist, which means plus 1 attack, plus 1 planning. But he's also cautious, which means minus 20% planning speed, and he's also a war hero, which means that it takes him 50% longer to be reassigned in between armies. Some people like to use Kesselring as an offensive field marshal. Some people like to promote Kesselring. Me, I just use Kesselring as a backup general, to be honest. Why do they like to promote Kesselring? Because he has this brilliant strategist tactic here, which Model already has, and this brilliant strategist enables you to get aggressive assaulter, which gives you a 10% extra bonus on breakthrough. And now we've inadvertently taken a look behind the curtain, and that means every general here has some traits that are available to him that you can pick and assign. They will earn traits throughout time. They have these traits that they can earn, which is Organizer, Panther Leader, Cavalry Leader, Engineer, Infantry Leader, Invader, Commando, Trickster, and Skilled Staffer. And they earn these traits by gaining experience while fulfilling the conditions for each trait. So basically here you can get experience while they are flanking the enemy or getting flanked by them. You get experience for Commando if you're fighting out of supply. You get experience for Invader if you're fighting in an amphibious invasion. You get experience for Infantry Leader if you are leading an army where the infantry ratio is more than 80%. Since our divisions are only infantry in this particular army, this means that this guy is very likely to get Infantry Leader. Infantry Leader gives you a 10% extra division defense, and once they do that, you have access to one of these 2 traits, which is Infantry Expert, giving you an extra 10% division attack, or Ambusher, which gives you 5 extra entrenchment and 25% recon bonus while you are entrenched. The problem with being entrenched is that it assumes you are not moving. So if the enemy overwhelms you and basically you need to abandon your position because you lose the combat, then you lose all entrenchment that you have. So entrenchment is a very good bonus as long as you do not lose the fight and you are defending, obviously. So as long as you're defending and you do not lose the fight, then entrenchment is a very good bonus. But because it's static and it's not and once you lose it, it's gone. It takes you quite a lot of time to re-entrench in a different position. That's why infantry division attack would be preferable, because even if you're on the defense, you get a 10% bonus to your attack, which means you get a 10% bonus to the damage that you are dealing in your defensive fight to your attackers. So it's usually not that much of a choice between Infantry Expert and Ambusher. So basically what I was saying is, these earned traits you earn by gaining experience while fulfilling the conditions, Then once this trait is earned, it will unlock a general trait. And there are also something called Field Marshal Trait, which you can only unlock if your general is promoted to the position of a Field Marshal. What is a Field Marshal? A Field Marshal is a Chief of Generals. So what I did there was I selected Schultz here, right? And let's just do it again. I selected this army, and then I right-click here, and it creates a new army group. So basically, I can assign a Field Marshal in charge of this army, and the bonuses from the Field Marshal will stack with the bonuses from the General whenever they are fighting. And just for the sake of it, see if I select the army group and I click on the assign leader, all of the generals are grayed out because I can't assign a general to the Field Marshal position, but I have some Field Marshals. And just for the fun of it, we're going to assign Walter Model to this army, and we are also going to take a look at all of his Field Marshal traits. So you can see here he has one more trait available that you can assign. It costs you 15 red telephones, 15 command points to assign it. We have 0 command points. We'll be gaining them daily, but we are going to discuss that at a later date. But you can assign one of these traits. Some of them are exclusive. Again, you have seen this symbol before in the focus tree, I think. Yeah. So some of them are exclusive. He can only get Unyielding Defender if he has Inflexible Strategist, and he can. And let's say somebody has Inflexible Strategist and Brilliant Strategist, which I don't think it's possible, but it's these types of things. So even then, he can only get one or the other. You can only get Aggressive Assaulter on Unyielding Defender, and you can only get Offensive Doctrine or Defensive Doctrine. Defensive Doctrine gives you a 30% bonus on entrenchment, so that is a very good thing to have on an infantry general that is used for defending, while Offensive Doctrine is a good thing to use on a Field Marshal that is going to be in charge of armies that are more on the attack, because it also gives you a +1 to attack, which in turn translates to +2.5 attack bonus. So basically, if I were to click this trait and assign Aggressive Assaulter to Walter Model, he will go 1 up here in attack. He'll get an extra attack point, but I'm not going to do that right now, and instead I'm just going to select him and assign him to our field group just for the fun of it. Now, in terms of the Panzer Group, Panzer Army, you have, like I said before, you have armored commanders, and these guys will just get more experience for Panther Leader, which means they are likely to get this trait faster than all the others. So basically, you to get this trait is you get 700 points of experience as opposed to 1000 for infantry. You get 700 points of experience by leading an army that has an armored ratio of over 40%. And what this does is it gives you 5% bonus to armor speed, 10% bonus to armor division attack, and it makes the general more likely to gain an attack skill when he levels up. When he levels up, he gets 3 points to be distributed randomly among these. Reckless means that he's likely to get more points in attack. Armor officer, it means that he's more likely to get points into attack. And once he gets Panzer Leader, he's even more likely to get points into attack. So Rommel has all the preconditions necessary to randomly yet consistently level up his attack skill on level up. And the higher the attack skill of a Panzer General, the better he is, because you're generally using your armor not to defend, unless we're talking heavy tanks. But in that case, we're only mixing one heavy tank with an infantry battalion, and the battalion is more considered infantry rather than armor. So the division is considered to be infantry rather than armor. But if you're having an armor division, then you will most likely be on the offensive all the time. So you want to bring up the attack overall from as many sources as possible. So right now he gives a 10% bonus to division attack. If you were to get Panther Leader, he would give another 10% on top of that. Panzer Expert gives you a 10% armor division defense, or, and this is the very important part. See, this gives you a bonus overall to the armor division defense. This is called a division, while the combined arms expert gives you a 15% bonus to motorized and mechanized defense, but it does not say to a motorized division defense, which means that if we look at the template for the armor division, it has 4 light tank battalions and 2 motorized battalions. Now we're going to change this later on, but basically the motorized infantry, I mean, we're actually going to check this later on, but what this tells me is that the combined arms expert will give a 15% bonus to the motorized overall, not to the motorized division. So it's not getting a 15% bonus to this 105 of the motorized unit, but it's rather getting a 15% bonus to this component of every division. So basically we should see an increase of defense also to our armor divisions overall, because currently we have 101.2 defense. It gives me 16 of the light tank. So this is addition. This is determined by adding up the defense of all of the battalions that are included in my division. So 16 from the light tanks times 4. So no, actually, so that is 16 from the light tanks, 44 from the motorized infantry, 11 from the recon company, 24.2 from the engineer company, and 6 from the support artillery, giving us a total base defense of 1.1.2. Sorry, actually it's 101.2. Now the breakthrough is calculated similarly. So what is breakthrough? Actually, this is an important concept, and it's good to discuss it. When you are defending, your defense is your stats. Your defense is determined by your stats from defense. When you are attacking, your defense is your stats from breakthrough. So basically, if we're defending, we'll be defending with 101.2. But if we were attacking with this division, we would be defending while we're attacking with 140.4. So basically, all of the when you are in combat, your attack is measured against the opponent's defense, and vice versa. So if we are the initiators of the attack, then their attack will be measured against our breakthrough, while our attack will be measured against their defense. And this is why tanks are important on the attack, because as opposed to, let's look at the template thing, as opposed to motorized infantry and other types of infantry, their breakthrough is much bigger. So the regular breakthrough of a motorized infantry division is 3. The regular breakthrough of a light tank is 43, and if we're going to look at medium tanks and so on, that's even bigger. And this is how these stats are calculated. So if you want to pile more breakthrough onto our divisions, we want to stock up on more things that have breakthrough. Organization, however, is an average of the organization of your unit. So basically we have 4 light tanks, which gives 40 organization. We have 120 organization from the motorized infantry, 20 from the recon company, and 20 from the engineer company, and it's averaged to 22.2. So I'm guessing it's divided by let me just do a little bit of math here. So we have 40, that means 160, that means 180, that means 200. So somehow 200 gets divided by a number that gives 22.2. 168. Is it really divided by 8? Let me see. 200 in 8. You have 2, 4. It's not 8. It's see, this is a bit tricky because you don't know what it's hard to discover how, if everything up to here worked okay, the average the average organization is weirdly calculated for some reason. Now, unless my math was off, but I don't think it was off. So I'm just gonna grab a calculator real quick. It's just driving me insane. Alright, so calculator. So we've got 40 plus 120. Oh, for fuck's sake, 40 plus 120 plus 20 plus 20, that's 200. Okay, and if we divide this by the 22.2, it tells me that we are basically dividing it by 9. Now, unless I'm missing something, there's only 8 pieces, so for some reason it's divided by 9. Why the hell is it divided by 9? We have 6 here because of the support artillery. The support artillery is a ghost company in the sense that it doesn't give you any organization, but that's why we are also dividing. So that's how organization is calculated. It takes into account, it sums up all the organization of all the battalions, and it divides it by the number of battalions. That includes both also support companies, and you get an average base, and that base you get the boost from the general staff, which, if I remember correctly, is this particular spirit, national spirit. General staff gives you 5% extra division organization, which is why you see our organization here at 23.3 rather than 22.2, which is the average base. Whew, that was maybe a bit too much math. Anyway, you don't need to. Now let me give you the streamlined version of this division multiplier. Basically, the more organization your unit has, the more it can fight. But it's a balancing act between how much damage it takes. So basically, if your unit is attacked, right? So this is a straight up infantry division. If your unit is attacked, if the attacker's attack is smaller than the defender's defense, as you can see here, we have 22.8 defense. So if this particular I'm just gonna have to swap between them. So if our type of infantry division were attacked by a Panzer division, we would be attacking it with 94.6, while the defense of this division would be 228.2. So the attack would be actually less than the value of the defense, so would be much less likely to deal actual damage, and therefore would be much less likely to deal damage to the there are two types of damage that get applied. It's HP damage, which actually causes injury, and organization damage. If the division is armored, that is, if the armor of the division, and let's see how that is calculated here. So since we were talking about it, now where's the armor? Armor 9.1. How is the armor calculated? Basically, it doesn't say, but what happens is each tank has a certain amount of armor that it brings to the division. That is plus 0.7, and there is also plus 5 of piercing that it brings to the division. So yeah, those numbers are not correct. So don't even fucking think about it. Okay, here's how you calculate these things. Ah, that's right, because yeah, I get it. Now this also is dependent on whatever technology you use, which is why it's not 100% accurate over here. So basically, let's take a look at an actual division that's in the field and not at the template itself. So let's take a look at this division of tanks. Here we go. The armor of this division is 6.1. Why? Because we have 4 light tanks. They are all of these. We have 40 light tanks. All of these. We have 4 light tank battalions. All of them are Panzer 1s, right? And they give 10 armor. They give 10 armor. The average base is 4.4 because 40 armor, it gets spread out to spread out. Yeah, so it gets spread out to all of the 9 companies that we've decided that already exist. So we have these support companies and these 6 other companies in here. So the armor, the 40 armor is divided by 9. You get 4.4 as the average base, but then it gets a weighted average because that is done between the highest armored company. So that one accounts to 30% in the weighted average. So the final weighted armor is 6.1, and as you can see there, having armor that is higher than the opponent's piercing value makes you take less damage, and it's also possible to perform more attacks in combat as the unit has more freedom of movement. This is why having an armor that is higher than your opponent's piercing is important. Now, when you look at the piercing, you see that it's also calculated through a weighted average, because you get 40 from the light tanks, 8 from the motorized, 4 from the recon company, 4 from the engineer company, and 5 from the support artillery. Whatever the result is divided by 9, and the average base is 6.7. But the highest piercing that you get is 10 from your Panzer 1s, which means that the weighted average for the piercing, as it's calculated by this formula, is 8. You do not need to take these into account. Now, if you look back into the division designer, you are going to see different stats. These stats in here assume that you are using all of the top equipment. So right now we are the divisions in the field were equipped with Panzer 1s, while we have already researched and produced Panzer 2s. These values for armor of 9.1 would be if we were using Panzer 2s instead of Panzer 1s, and the piercing as well would go up from 8 to 21, and the armor would go up from 6.7 to 9.1 if we were to be using Panzer 2s instead of Panzer 1s for our divisions. That's the entire story about divisions. Now I'm going to just assign a good attacker to our tanks. As we can see, Fyodor von Bock is the best offensive guy that we have, but he has -10 to recovery rate because he has this harsh leader trait, which I don't really like. You don't want to have your recovery. What's the recovery rate? It's the rate at which a division can recover organization after it has lost it. So he's a decent guy, but we're not really going to use him. So instead, I'm just going to use Rommel for the tank divisions. But I'm not going to assign Rommel for now because I know how the game is going to play in going forward. So I'm just going to leave these divisions completely unassigned. The idea is that I'm going to promote Weinstein and use him as my armor commander. I'm going to make use of the fact that he has brilliant strategies to give him the trait of aggressive assaulter, and I'm going to use him as my armor commander because as a Panther Leader he is more likely to gain Panzer bonuses quicker. And I'm going to use Heinz Guderian as my second Panzer General. Basically, you need like maybe 3 at the very most. That would be quite a bit of luxury. So the third one would usually be Hasso von Manteuffel, which is again an armored officer. So it means he's going to get his trait very quickly. He has low planning speed, that's true, but we don't usually care about that too much. But he has a very low chance of getting wounded in combat, so he's generally there to stay, and he doesn't have any penalties to getting his experience in getting his experience. Which, if you look at the next best general that is available, Walter Kruger, he has 10% experience gain penalty here, and he also has the reckless trait, which means he's more likely to get attack on leveling up, but he's also more likely to get wounded in combat. Now this same trait is something that Rommel has as well, the reckless trait, but he's just a little bit better, so I'm willing to make an exception in his case. Paul Hauser, on the other hand, is another guy who is politically connected, which means -10 experience gain problems. So basically all of the other Panzer generals that Germany has, with the exception of Edward von Kleist, who is just cautious, and Hermann Hoth, who is basically, and also Friedrich Paulus and Georg Hans Reinhardt, which are very low level attack generals. All of the other higher level attack generals have this problem of being politically connected, which means they are less likely to make use of the experience that they will acquire during my battles. So